very special interview I'm super excited to be doing with Alana. I'm sure a lot of you joining us have seen the emails, the Facebook posts, the tweets. I've been kind of sharing the news all around because we are extremely lucky to have Alana on because she's actually going to be joining her next ship very, very shortly. And she also has some amazing things she's going to be sharing with us today, as well as extra content online that we're going to be talking about from her end as well. So welcome, welcome. If you are just joining, and you don't know who I am by any chance, my name is Amanda. I'm a cruise ship employment specialist. And we are here today with Alana, who has been on board for over 2 years, and I'm going to let her intro herself a little bit too, so I'm just going to switch the camera. So go for it, Alana.
Hi, my name's Alana, and I am a youth counselor on board celebrity ships, and I'm from Connecticut, and I've been working on cruise ships now for more than 2 years, and I still can't believe the places that I've seen around the world and where ships have taken me. I would have never guessed going back in time where I was on my way to. So I'm here and I have a lot of information to share, and I hope that the information I have for you can help you, whether you are in the process of applying to work on the ship, or you're thinking about working on a ship, or maybe you've just started and you're still fishing for some more information. So let's awesome. Do this.
Yeah, so I guess one of my first questions, because you've already been on now for over 2 years, and I love chatting with fellow youth staff because as some people may or may not know, I did work on board for a decade, but originally I actually started as seasonal youth staff and then kind of transitioned into other positions. So I love chatting with other youth staff. So my first question for Alana, because I know when you actually started as youth staff, I believe you started in a seasonal role and then now you're more in a permanent role. So can you tell us a little bit about the differences between the two?
I would say the main difference overall is the amount of time that you're going to be spending on the ship. So, as a new sign-on, back in April of 2014, I began my first seasonal, and due to high kid count on one of the ships, I was requested to work for 1 week. So I did a 1 week contract, and then a month later I came back and I did 3 months in Alaska. So basically when you're a seasonal, you are asked to come on the ship when there's a high kid count. However, sometimes there are occurrences where, your scheduler from the cruise ship is going to email you and say, hey, can you come on the ship tomorrow? Someone, could have gotten sick. Someone might be going home for a certain amount of time for whatever reason. Someone could have found out they're having a baby and they just sprung that on the manager. So you may be getting the email to come on as a seasonal. Seasonal contracts can vary so much. They can be a 1 week fill-in, as I said, for many reasons of why someone would have to go home and you replace them. And then when you become permanent, you're looking at a longer contract. So that is something that you have to weigh out if that's really right for you, because I just did it was nearly an 8-month contract. So I had 2 months off to travel around the world and be with family, but I'm about to do another 8 months.
That's so you brought up a lot of great points. I guess first just talking about seasonal opportunities. Again, why I love having been a seasonal myself and yourself as well, but also talking with clients as well that are looking at this as an opportunity. I love youth staff because if you are kind of just thinking about working on board and you're wanting to try it out before making a longer term commitment, there are very few positions on board which allow you sort of a seasonal short term opportunity. So for anyone out there that's, has a little bit of background shoreside working with children and youth and you're interested in a position on board, trying it out seasonally is like a really awesome way to kind of just test the waters, sorry for the pun, see if you like it and then commit to a longer period. So you talked a little bit about moving over to permanent staff, which is obviously longer contracts. Typically I know a lot of contracts with a lot of companies are about 6 months for that role. Did you start out as a 6-month confirmed commitment and then you extended to 8 months, or they requested, or is it generally in between? Is it generally an 8-month contract for your role?
As far as I know, the permanent positions, I think that they, in general, it might have changed across the board for everyone, like meaning instead of 6 months, about 7 months. But our ship does 2-week contracts. So towards like the end of my contract, I actually just decided to extend. So I was on the ship for an extra 2 weeks. So that's really what happened. But yeah, permanent youth staff, it was about 6 months, and then they bumped it to about 7. But sometimes it's not going to align perfectly to the exact 7 months because it depends on a lot of factors. So that's kind of how it worked out for me.
Cool. So that kind of brings me to my next question, which a lot of people ask me, and I've done some videos on it a little bit as well, but I think there's sort of this, when people sort of dive into the research about working on board, especially say in youth staff, and you know, you get like really great feedback, you get really negative feedback depending on the forums that you find. A lot of it has to do with people's assumption of work hours, and they want to know, of course, that you're able to like actually see these places that you're going to visit. Can you tell us like what a typical week looks like for a youth staff on board for you?
So typical week is it goes by the cruise, right? So on our ship we do 2-week itineraries. So I work on a low season ship actually, so it's not high kid count all the time, like some Disney cruise lines where it's like work, you know, and then sleep, and then work. It's not like that for me. So actually I have it really good, and there's a really good balance of work life and my personal life. So yeah, a typical work week, I mean, day by day we have split shifts, so I'm not working the same exact hours during the day every day. Sometimes we do other duties around the ship to help other positions, like activity hosts. Sometimes during low season, which I'll be doing for quite a few months, preparing for Christmas time when we have high kid count. Yeah, we're just like preparing a lot of the activities and games and crafts, things that we're going to be doing with the families for Christmas time. And then, of course, every Embark Day, we have fabulous team building together up on Deck 15 at Sailway, which is really, really phenomenal, as you know, whether we're sailing out of Miami into the open sea or out of Southampton. So yeah, and then obviously when we're in port, we have our time off, and I have a fabulous manager who is really good at sorting all of that out. So
cool.
Every day is different.
Kind of brings me to my next question, because I mean, we heard a little bit about the work, and you know, split shifts, very, very typical with really a lot of positions on board any cruise ship. But let's talk about some of the play, like some of the really cool, fun benefits, because I know you've already been so many places around the world already. Why don't you tell us like some of like the really cool like excursions and tours and like stuff that you've seen over your last couple of years?
What stands out in my head so much, like number one, was snorkeling the Great Barrier Reef. So we were docked in Cairns, which is northeastern part of Australia. That was always on my bucket list of something in my life I wanted to do, and that was a place that was included in our itinerary, and I got to snorkel the Great Barrier Reef with one of my friends who I'm actually going to be joining on my ship soon. So ship to ship, you see a lot of the same friends, right? That's really how it plays out, and it's always like big smile and hug, like, hi! Like, it's really nice. Also a really big highlight for me was Bora Bora. So we tendered in Bora Bora, and it was so dreamy, and it was a postcard. I mean, and the thing is this, I have to say this, is that a lot of people travel to those destinations like Bora Bora for a honeymoon, right? Or to go there for a week or two. But after going there for the day, I've seen it. If a ship takes me back there by chance, perfect. But a lot of these places you go to around the world, I can say that it was fabulous to have visited and to have had the opportunity to go there, but I wouldn't necessarily go back and plan a trip. So it's amazing how I know some people that, you know, they go to Bora Bora for honeymoon, or they go there for vacation, or they go to Hawaii, and I've done it, been there, done that. And of course, there's still more places to go to, but I wouldn't go back for extended amount of time. Also, side note, sailing the islands of Greece blew my mind. Like Santorini was top number one, just for the views and the food.
Yeah.
And the Greek wine tasting I did, overlooking the views. And also whale watching. through the Inside Passage. Once we sailed out of Vancouver, we go through the Inside Passage before, we reach open sea on our way to Alaska. That was magnificent.
Oh,
so
awesome.
Those were like main highlights. Top.
I'm actually like so glad you mentioned Vancouver, because that is actually my hometown. That's where I am born, raised. That's where I was originally from. So I'm glad you enjoyed like that part as well. It's like one of my faves. Funnily enough, you know, when I was in recruitment, I actually worked for one of the major hiring partners for Princess that is based out of Vancouver. So we did a lot of hiring of staff. And, you know, it's so funny person to person, because a lot of the staff that we hired from Vancouver, that was the one place they didn't want to go, was Alaska, because it was so similar to their home environment. So that's kind of interesting too when you talk about itineraries. You know, there's so many opportunities when you're a crew member, and there's going to be something for everyone when it comes to wherever you might end up. And I think it was either in one of your YouTube videos or blog, and I'll make sure I link all of that information in this posting, but also we'll talk about it a bit more in a little while. But I think it was, I'm trying to remember. What were you saying? Oh, like I know when I worked on board with a variety of companies, there was something called escort or crew escort when you would go on a tour. And I actually got the opportunity to do like tours that passengers are paying hundreds of dollars for. Was that the same for you as well?
Yes. So basically being a tour escort is a really good way to see the places. However, you, like all crew members, have to keep in mind, like you are escorting. So that literally means keep an eye out, because stuff happens. I mean, this past summer we were in Estonia. We were through Old Town in Tallinn, a beautiful walking tour followed by lunch. Literally for 5 minutes during the 5 minute free time that we had in Old Town, someone fell down and smashed their head on the sidewalk, someone in my group. But unfortunately, I didn't see it happen. I never saw that happen. I was actually getting my caffeine, my coffee, on the way to meeting our group at the restaurant. And as soon as I sat down in the restaurant, like my tour guide was like, "Oh my gosh," and she was just shaking. She's like, "What happened? Like you're from the ship. Like, what should I do? Can I have your name?" Like, but I didn't see it happen. So anyways, being a tour escort, yes, it's a really good way to see a place. You don't pay for it, but keep an eye out, because things can happen, and that's really why you're there. Like, if something happens to a guest while you're on a tour, the tour guide is going to speak with you, and like you're going to be involved in the paperwork and reporting it back to the ship, because that's really important, and stuff really happens, seriously. And the thing too is that when you're a crew taking tours, like my thing is that I just try to blend as much as I can, being incognito, but of course they always figure me out. And then, you know, guests come up to me, "Do you work on the ship?" And like, I can't say no, because they'll probably find me on the ship the next day. I can't say, "I don't work on the ship. I'm actually cruising like you." But I talk to all my friends about it, and it's just really, really funny, because I take tours to soak in where I am, and I like to be incognito, but yeah, the guests usually always discover me and then pick my brain, which is fine. But sometimes once the whole tour group finds out, I'm like, okay, that's enough. Enough about me. Let's focus on where we are right now.
It's so true. I think for like the first like 3 to even 5 years, I was like all about the shore, the crew escorting tours. I was like, all right, let's just do it. I think by year 6, I kind of avoided it for that team a lot of the time as well, because by that time I was cruising sometimes often to the same places that I'd been years before, so I kind of wanted to delve off on my own. But that's the cool thing about being a crew member. You have all these choices. When you have your port time off, you can go off with friends, you can go have lunch, you can do a tour, which kind of leads me to a question that I believe you did one of your first YouTube videos on, which I thought was a really cool topic, because it's kind of a challenge I think that some people think about when they're thinking about joining a cruise ship. You did a video on being vegetarian and dealing with that challenge, but you really provided in that video some really like amazing tips about how you sort of dealt with that being on board a cruise ship. So did you want to talk, because I think that's something that you're pretty passionate about, so I wanted to give you time to talk about that.
So right before I started working on cruise ships, I was like, that was my main like point, like bullet point in my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I like to cook. What am I going to eat? What are they feeding me? Am I going to be eating peanut butter in my room all night by myself with the spoon? So basically, when I started doing research, I came across a very off-putting, kind of negative YouTube video about a guy making a video from his cabin being like, this sucks, like, I can't find the food I need, I'm hungry, and I'm like, oh gosh. So, yeah, I've struggled a little bit on the ship just because I like to cook, and I know what my body needs, and I love eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, and that's how I feel my best. So when we eat well and when we take care of our bodies, we can do our best at work. I really believe that. So basically, when we're docked and ship, that is my food exploration time, and I like to do it on my own, actually. I just like to have my quiet time, and I mean, my manager actually jokes about it, like, Alana needs her food, this is her port, she's getting off, she loves to eat, and like, no, I don't, it's not like I gorge myself, like, food, but no, I need to find fresh food. So that's my point to people that are vegetarian and thinking about working on a ship, like, you can make it work, but come on the ship with the supplements that you know you need, like for me, like all my B vitamins, probiotics, because I'm not used to a lot of the foods, being prepared with a lot of butter and extra ingredients and sauces. It's too much. I can't take it well. I don't digest it well. And like my stomach, I get really bad stomach problems and stomach gas. So I have to take probiotics and other things. So down in the crew mess, I just stick to a lot of salads and fruits and vegetables and sandwiches. A lot of times it's on the repeat button. So that's why, yeah. When we're docked in port, I do a little bit of research or I ask around. I know that I wrote about it in my blog, but I had a fabulous dining experience when I was in Estonia. I went to the tourist information office right in Old Town and just asked the guy working there. I'm like, I'm vegetarian. Anything you recommend? He goes, actually, a 3-minute walk away, there was this vegan restaurant. So I walk up with my boyfriend, and the place wasn't even open yet. And the line of people waiting to dine at this place, I'm like, gotta go here. So yeah, delicious. I love taking food trips. I love to discover different cuisines, different kinds of foods, just as long as it's not prepared with meat and like butter and sauces. Like, I don't like it. Yeah. So and I think you can do it. You can make it work. I promise.
I think it's like the hard thing too. I think for well, not the hard thing. I think it's just that getting used to things and how it is on the ship. Sometimes what position you have may dictate a little bit about what certain areas you are able to eat in. If you're, say just a crew member, you may only be able to eat in the crew mess. If you're a staff member, more front of house, you'll be able to eat in the crew or the staff mess. And then if you're an officer, you have like this whole other area as well. You can eat in the officer's mess. And then some people, depending on the companies, I know you'll have access to passenger buffet or specialty restaurants. So I think it was so great in that video. And if you guys want to check it out, I made like a special bit.ly for Alana's playlist that she has. It's bit.ly/Alana shiplife, and I'll make sure I put that link in here. But she's got some amazing videos, and I know you're going to be coming out with more, which is great. And I know we've got more information on like kind of how to deal with that potential challenge, because I know there's a lot of you that watch these videos that might be vegan or vegetarian or have certain dietary restrictions. So definitely check that out. Let's talk about, you noted actually your boyfriend, and so you didn't join originally a couple of years ago with a boyfriend, but I know you met your boyfriend, I think, on board. So can you talk a little bit about that, but also a little bit about now working together?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, by chance, I met my boyfriend on the ship. I was getting pizza, eating, and he noticed me. That's the story with that. But he is a head sound operator, so he does all the live shows. We work opposite hours, so unfortunately on the ship, like, we see each other, but it's always in passing, like, did you eat yet? Are you hungry? Okay, let's go eat in the crew mess. Yeah. Did you buy your phone card? Okay. No? Okay, I'll go with you. And we walk, and then we go to work. It's kind of like that. It's kind of actually really funny. But, yeah, like, we go to specialty restaurants together when we can schedule that with our time off. We get off the ports together, but just know that on ships, different departments, I mean, sometimes they have very, very different hours. So I love my sleep. I'm like a bear. I come back to my cabin, lights off, sleeping mask, passed out, and he's still working, like setting up the stage till 3 o'clock in the morning. So that is challenging because then like he can sleep in the next day to begin working in the afternoon, and then sometimes I have to start at 9 in the morning. So working different hours can sometimes lead to different lifestyles. So, you know, he does the live shows, and then he might get together with the guest entertainers, which is really cool, and hang out with them and get to know them and learn more about them as artists. And I'm passed out in my room sleeping. So
I mean, I'm not sure if you did a blog post on this or not, but talking about just, I do get this question sometimes about working as a couple or applying even as a couple. Some cruise lines are like, it's not very easy at all. Other cruise lines, it's a little bit easier. With the line that you're with right now, can you tell us like about that process, about like trying to get on the same ship, or how does that work?
As far as I know, it's usually once you're physically on a ship together, then you can apply like for a couple ID. Now, a lot of ships don't do couple IDs. It's kind of a new thing to keep couples together, but you know, don't abuse the privilege. Like, that's one of the biggest problems. It's like some people like meet someone and then they go to HR and like, oh, we're a couple, we want to get on the next ship, and then they break up. And it's just it's very time consuming, and it's a paperwork trail for everyone to get you into the system. And, you know, like, don't abuse it. But, yeah, like, we just went together and, like, you know, shared that, like, we're a couple, and, like, gave our IDs and went from there. And it's really worked in our favor in terms of getting on the same ship together. That's been really, really fabulous. Like, I can't thank my company enough for that. They really bent over backwards for me, and for a lot of people I know who are couples. So, but in terms of, like, let's say you have, like, spouses, and, like, one, like, the guy is on the ship, and he's married to someone who wants to work on the ship, like, maybe through the recruiter, they would go through those channels to try to get on the ship. I've heard of that in many cases with different companies. But for me, yeah, it's just been very straightforward. They bent over backwards for me, and it's worked out really well, and it's been really good. Very easy to match contracts. It's been really great.
Yeah, and I love what you say too about like not abusing the privilege, because again, like my last 3 years that I worked on board, of the 10, I was onboard HR manager with P&O Australia, and we didn't have couple IDs, but we did have things like people could come to HR and maybe request to room together if they were a couple on board and stuff like that. And I can't tell you the amount of times where somebody will have just met somebody else, and they will have just started dating, and then I do all this work to get the cabins together, and then it doesn't work out, and then we've got all this, so which is why people should know, like, some companies, they're super supportive of it and they will bend over backwards, like Alana was just talking about. Other companies are going to be a lot more strict. Like, for example, I know Royal Caribbean, they actually require like a marriage license, and that's like kind of the only way it's going to be like a move forward. So, and that's just because of issues and people abusing the privilege. So something to keep in mind. The next topic I wanted to talk about was an awesome thing that you posted about, which was cross-training opportunities. And with Princess and P&O, the companies I worked with prior, it was called a career path transfer. So kind of every company I know kind of calls it something different. But can you talk a little bit about that experience that you had on board, like, and what that opportunity allows for people?
So once you're on the ship, you can start to look into doing other positions. And you have many channels on the ship to steer you to the right people to help you get more information. So you can start with your manager, which is what I've done, like talking to my manager and just expressing myself about how I'm more open to learning other positions on the ship, how I want to like build my skills, and very, very helpful. You can go to HR. HR will steer you as well. You could also go to the direct manager, like after you've talked to your manager, going to the manager of that position you're interested in to say, hey, I'm interested. Do you have a position open? When will you have a position open? And sometimes then they'll let you start cross training like on the spot and like get back there behind the desk and start learning and taking in all of the new duties and skills that you need to learn. So I am open to doing other things on the ship, but I don't think I found that niche yet of something that I would like to jump into and say, okay, this is what I do now. I haven't found that yet. I've experimented, but I don't think I found it yet.
Cool. That's just such a, I mean, even though you haven't found the next step or whatever quite yet with regards to, progression as of yet, which is totally fine. I think it's so awesome that your company allows this opportunity for trying things out and experimenting and like working with other departments and just like following your interests. I think, a lot of people don't realize that are maybe new to getting a job on a cruise ship that, you can start you can just pick a position that you currently have the relevant experience for, break in, get your sort of foot in the door, start working on board. And then once you're on board, you may see another position that you didn't even know about that you're like, wow, that's actually what I want to be doing. And the company will totally support you. Many, many companies as well that I've worked with, they have, additional training you can do with the training officer. They have fully paid for programs that would cost you like hundreds of dollars, if not thousands ashore, that are provided from the company, and being able to actually like job shadow. These are all like amazing things that you have the opportunity to do on board. So yeah, I'm so glad that you touched on that with regards to your content. If somebody was, say, like thinking about, and I'm sure you've had friends, family that are like, what are you actually doing out there? Like, is that a real job? Which of course it is. So can you tell me a little bit about first, like when you first started working on ships and then like you were definitely going back time and time again, like what were friends and family saying?
I think to describe what I do on the ship, actually I've gotten some funny responses that I get on the ship from guests when they, one of my shore excursions, and they said, what do you do on the ship? Yeah, so I'm a youth counselor, but I'm not a babysitter. Like, we're not babysitters. Like, I want to be clear on that, because like not my parents, but like family members, distant relatives are like, oh, so you're a babysitter. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not a babysitter. Like, we run a program, we run activities that are creative, and we do a lot of arts, we do a lot of crafts, we run programs around the ship, we do family activities, we run holiday activities during Christmas and Easter, and there's a lot of thought process put behind to deliver these activities, and a lot of planning and time restraints put behind them, and budgeting to buy everything, and as a team put our ideas together of how we're going to present these activities that we run. So yeah, families can drop their kids off with us in the youth program, but like, we're not babysitters. Like, we run programs, and sometimes in low kid count, it's really hard to run programs. So sometimes it's more focused on creativity and like making things and painting, and I really like to do that. But family and friends also know that when I'm on the ship, I've expressed to them that aside from being a youth counselor, I'm also a part of care team, which I think is really cool. It's volunteer based. The training that you receive on the ship is usually from like a T&D manager or from HR, crew welfare specialist, for them to describe what you're about to get yourself into. But basically, if you can imagine on a ship, crazy things happen, and things happen at all hours of the day. For 2-week cruises, we have an older population of guests, because, I mean, who really has at least 2 weeks a year to take a vacation on a cruise? That's not for the younger population. So crazy stuff happens. Not all 4,000 guests cruising on a ship are in great health. I have seen crazy things, and I have heard crazy things, and it's pretty common when you're in the middle of the ocean to see a helicopter land on the helipad to rescue a guest. Like, those things happen all the time. And so basically, care team, we assist guests who are in crisis. Maybe a spouse of theirs just died on the ship suddenly, and it wasn't expected. Maybe someone fell down and broke a leg. Maybe someone fell and now they're internally bleeding. So we assist spouses or those directly affected by a crisis to help them and release them from their grief, give them some advice. Sometimes that entails us to debark with the guest, helping them with all of their luggage, sitting with them in the hospital, assisting them to the hotel. Maybe they're too sick to fill out paperwork on their own when they're in a hospital, so we assist them with paperwork. We get an international phone. We call home to their spouses. If they don't have a spouse, we call their relatives, their siblings, and let them know what happened, who we are, why we're there, and how that person is getting home. So I've done the training, and I have assisted care team, a guest one time, but I think that is, in the more than 2 years of being on a ship, I think like that is like one of my top highlights of experiences of how humble I felt after doing that, to really feel for someone, not wanting to be alone, being assisted off the ship. It really broke my heart, but to be with someone and help them, and for them to not know what's wrong with them, and to just sit with them and talk to their sibling and let them know they're okay. They're not on the ship. I am with their luggage. I am with their sibling. They're getting home this date. We book their flights. Like, I really feel like that somehow changed my life or enhanced my life, because like those are skills that not everyone is capable of. Mm-hmm. Not everyone is called to do something like that. So I feel really proud and honored to be part of Care Team and to continuously go to trainings and talk to people about it, because stuff happens, and to have the privilege to assist someone in need, in crisis, it's not easy. It's not easy to watch, but I feel very honored to be part of that with the company.
Yeah, and I think that speaks so much to, and I mean, almost every major cruise line has a care team. Is like, care training is an amazing training. Many cruise lines have crew members that have been trained in this training to really assist guests and or crew that are going through crisis, which is awesome. But I think it just really speaks to the extras that you get on board as a crew member. You know, you might just think that you're joining in this job, and then you're going to get there and there's going to be these other options for promotions or additional training or expanding your skills. And so for me, at least, and I feel like maybe probably for you too, it's first of all, it's not just a job, it's a lifestyle, but then there's this, you throw in this continual professional development, and it's like the sky's the limit, and you can really see just the benefits of just being a crew member. So I guess that's kind of like how we'll kind of close up a little bit, or kind of lead to that, is what do you feel right now are like the top three, and you talked a little bit about the care training and stuff like that, but like top three benefits if someone new to ships like came and was like, what's so great about working on ships, like top three things, what would you say?
Number one would be the travel opportunities, because each ship has a different itinerary. So what you're going to cover, like check off your list and say, done it, what's next, bring it. Like travel is number one. Number two is the opportunity to save cash, saving money. We get paid twice a month, so with very little expenses on the ship and at home. For myself speaking, sending money home and like sending that money towards my Roth IRA for savings, money for when I'm home, saving money is number two. And number three would be the friendships that you make on board, because I have made some pretty exceptional friends on the ship, and people that I know that are always going to be there for me, people that are only email or phone call away, no matter, some of the youth staff, people that I'm really close with, Philippines, Serbia, Italy, England, like all of these countries, Colombia, these people, like, I may not talk to them every day, but when I see them on the ship, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, hi. And that's a really good feeling, is to know people haven't forgotten about you, and people are always there for you. So yeah, the friendships that you make, those bonds are much stronger, I think, than home, maybe. Mm-hmm. stronger and they develop much quickly. And you share, you know, you get so excited and passionate sometimes on the ship when you're talking after work. You know, you're having a drink or you're at Wine and Cheese and you're with your team and you're like, okay, so this happened to me last year and this happened. I traveled here, and you're just talking and sharing, and it's like to become one. Like everyone just gets close and friendly, and I really like that.
Yeah.
It's a really nice feeling.
Because, like, excuse the next pun, but, like, you know, everyone is on the same boat. You know, everyone's there. It's a unique environment in the fact that you're working together, but you're also living together, and then you're also traveling the world together. So, yeah, it's like super extreme tightness. If someone were to come to you that was like on the fence about whether or not to even pursue a job on a cruise ship, like, what would you tell them if they were kind of like, I don't know, I'm not sure, but I'm kind of interested? What would you say?
Well, I think the main gateway to wanting to work on a cruise ship is to travel, to get out there and experience things that you wouldn't necessarily experience on land. I think you have to be independent and brave and strong to get out there and put yourself out there and go get with it and get on the ship. That's the main thing, is wanting to travel, and just know that you can always try it. It's not forever, right? Like, you can always just do one contract. Or if you're wanting to be a seasonal, just like maybe just say, okay, I'm going to accomplish and complete one contract, and if I don't like it, I don't have to go back. I know people that have done that. Like my first contract, my first long one in Alaska, the girl that I work with, she said, okay, I tried it, but I'm going to stay in Spain. And that's fine. Just try it. And if you don't like it, at least you say, well, that's on my resume. I tried it. I experienced it. I took something home with me. Moving forward.
Yeah, cool. I know, like, I recently sent you a copy of my guide, the How the Heck to Get a Job on a Cruise Ship guide, which if some of you are here and you haven't checked it out, it's you can check it out at getalifeatsea.com/guide to adventure. It's over 50 pages of information with, like, all the major cruise lines contact details, employment links, step-by-step application instructions, resume template info, interview tips, stuff like that. Alana's just got a copy, so, like, I know you didn't have a copy a couple years ago because I only just started my company last year, but, like, what did you think about it, and, like, would it be something that you would recommend to newbies?
I would absolutely recommend your guide, because, like, a lot of that information is stuff that wasn't there. I mean, even as recent as 2.5 years ago when I was applying, I mean, I was really digging deep on the internet, and I was only coming across blogs that were so dated. I mean, dated to 5-6 years back. So because you have worked on board now before for more than 10 years, and now you're recruiting on land, I mean, you have a lot of experience. You've worked for many companies. You've done a lot of positions. So your guidebook is something that I would absolutely trust and I would absolutely read. And I took a look at it so far, like the first few pages, and yeah, it has a lot of useful information about how to apply and positions and all of that good stuff. So a lot of that, you know, you can't really find a lot of that on the internet. I certainly didn't find it. And side note, that's why I started making YouTube videos, because if I can reach some kind of audience and say and know that I assisted someone and I helped someone answer their questions, then I feel better. Like, oh, that was my calling. I made that video.
Yeah, I want to show everyone Alana's info before she goes, before we kind of finish up. So I'm going to show them, let's see here. Let's start first with your, because I can just like switch the screen. So Alana has, we'll start with the blog, a really awesome blog you can see here. If you can actually screenshot the link there, but I'll also put the link in this video. So it's workandplayatsea.blogspot.com or .ca. It actually works for both. So I'm on .ca because I'm in Canada. But yeah, check that out. You can see here she's got really awesome posts. Just tons of information on everything from cross training to like how to get started to mid-contract reviews. It's super awesome. And then she's got her YouTube channel. If you just search Alana, here you go, Alana, and correct me if I'm pronounce your last name, Bertozzi. Is that correct?
Bertozzi.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Good. So you can just go there, or so you'll just go to her playlist there and you can click on Shiplife. I'll also make sure the link is in this video, but I've also created a bit.ly, so you can go to bit.ly / Alana Shiplife, and I'll make sure that link is there. And as you can see, she's already got quite a few videos. I mean, just you already have like 10 videos up, which is so crazy. It's awesome. Like what to expect, being vegetarian, cross training, signing on. Like, it's so great, the content. So make sure you check that out, because I feel like you have kind of the same mission that I had when I started my company, Get a Life at Sea. It's just, I saw that there was this huge gap in good information, like really solid information, also information from somebody who'd actually been on board more than like one contract, or who had been on board at least recently, or had some ties to the industry. And I just saw that there was this huge gap, which was why originally I was like, I'm just going to write a guide. And then from there, it's like turned into a whole lot more like consults and resume writing and recruitment again and all that kind of stuff. But I'm so glad there are crew members like you, like sharing this information, because I feel like, as you said, when you start to delve into the research, and it's just overwhelming, and it's very needle in a haystack, hard to find good stuff out there. Yeah. So I want to ask anyone that's watching right now, if you have any questions for Alana, feel free to put those in the chat now, and we'll stay on for just a few more minutes to answer any questions that you have. Remember that because it's a Facebook Live video, even if you see this video after and you're watching the replay, you can still comment, and Alana or I will pop in and answer questions as best we can for you. But anyone who's here can ask some questions now. And then Alana, do you have like any sort of like final recommendations, or I don't know, final statements before we close out?
Final statement.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Your ship motto.
Tips. Well, I've been on vacation now for 2 months, so I'm going to have to adjust a little bit
Yeah.
really soon, because those 2 months actually flew by super fast. So one thing I want to say is, once you get on the ship, sleep is going to be your companion, because working a lot of split shifts and enjoying your time in port and other things that you're doing around the ship, whether that's crew drill or going to the gym, like setting up your cabin, like you're going to need sleep. And I can't tell you, everyone in my department, we always talk about, oh my gosh, I can't wait to just sleep and have this deep sleep. And then when we see each other again, I'm like, how are you? And my friend's like, I just had this great sleep. So it's so much different back home, because on the ship, like, sleep really becomes your companion, and you need it to function and feel your best and look your best.
Yeah.
Sleep.
For sure. And actually,
and another thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I just had a question from Gail, but go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, do the question.
Okay. So, Gail asks, how long do you have to wait before you like apply for another position, or like start that job shadowing sort of process? Like, if you've just joined, say, and it's your first contract, like how quickly could you even jump into that, do you think?
I mean, if you're a new hire and you're getting on the ship, I mean, you need an appraisal first to start cross-training. So you need like an end of contract appraisal. So jumping into another position and cross-training, like, don't expect that to happen immediately. Maybe wait into your second contract perhaps. But I'm telling you, stuff happens. People get fired. People get sick. People go home for funerals and decide not to come back. Crazy stuff happens. Like, the turnaround on ships of the amount of people coming and going happens so quickly. So things can go in your direction really quickly when you least expect it. And yeah, so for cross-training, I'm sure there's some sort of paperwork trail as well that you're going to have to prove, like things that you've learned, things you've accomplished, things you know how to do, because at the end of your cross-training, I'm sure you'll get interviewed or grilled about all the things that you said that you accomplished for cross-training. But I would say wait until your second contract to really begin that, because if you're just learning a new position and you're like, I want to do cross-training, I don't think so. You're going to need an end of contract appraisal by your manager, and then also approved and signed by HR manager. So that's usually how that works.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, because it is such a, if you are joining in a specific position, you need to give yourself at least, I usually tell clients sometimes like at least like halfway through the contract at the earliest would be like when you would start looking into something, maybe. But yeah. And then, Gail, this is another great question, especially because Alana is American, and as are most of my clients. Gail asks, how was it for you doing your medical and background check? Like, how long did it take? Was it super expensive? I know various companies have different requirements when it comes to the pre-employment medical and all that kind of jazz. So how was that for you initially, and like expense-wise, were you reimbursed or partially reimbursed and stuff like that?
Okay, so background check, that was super, super fast. Like my recruiter, they said, from what I remember, I applied with the 7Cs group.eu, and the recruiter that I was with, she sent me a link, and I had to pay like maybe no more than $20 maybe to just put some of my information online. She sent me a link for it, and that was quick. And then all that info got approved and sent back to my recruiter. So background check happened super fast, very little for me to do. Medical, as far as I know, crew are responsible for those fees. So when I did medical on land, I did that nearby, but however, it's changing now, and usually medical, you need approved medical clinic to do it. So sometimes that's going to cost a lot more. I know other crew members that went to like the approved place, a legit place, and they spent hundreds of dollars for me. Health insurance covered it, and my recruiter and ship approved where I was getting it done. So that was another story. Another cool thing is when your medical's about to expire, being an American, I can get it done on the ship. So that gets done at medical on the ship. I'm not going to disclose like what that costs in case I don't want to get in trouble.
Oh, yeah, no worries.
But get it done on the ship. But that's not open for all nationalities. However, as far as I know, like Filipinos, Indonesians, people from India, but maybe Americans and Canadians, it's easier to get their medical just redone on the ship for a set fee, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's clients too. It's like it so varies like some on where you're from sometimes, what position you're applying for, what company you're working with, what's happening with the actual cruise line's medical process, because they're often updating and changing requirements. So it's kind of like this ever-growing thing. But generally, at least with the companies I worked with, the medical was good for like a 2-year period. So even if you do have to pay out of pocket and it is a little bit of money for you, often, at least you have the peace of mind that it's going to be good for multiple contracts, which is kind of nice sometimes. And then the criminal too is usually quite easy and cheap. Cameron asks, if I do a seasonal position during college with say Celebrity, will that look good on my resume if I apply for another cruise line later, like Disney, after college? Or, let me just see, or will they not like that I worked for another cruise line first? I think that's a really good question. Yeah.
If she starts at Celebrity during college?
Yeah, Cameron says, like, if I want to do, like, seasonal youth staff, like, while I'm still at uni, or while I'm still at university, like, during, seasonal breaks, can I do that? And then, but if I want to, say, work for, like, another cruise line when I want to go permanent, do cruise lines like to see, like, past cruise ship employments, or,
No.
Yeah.
So the thing is that, you have to check it out with a recruiter. But as far as I know, however, being a youth counselor, you need a 4-year degree. You have to have a 4-year degree to get the job and apply first. So university students, as far as I know, don't drop in during the summer to be seasonals. You need a degree first before applying.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that obviously is like a big difference with the lines that you've worked with and I worked with. So with Princess, for example, Princess Cruises does not require a 4-year degree for a youth staff position. And I actually was seasonal youth staff during my whole university career during seasonal breaks. So like all summer, every Christmas break, every spring break. And there were a lot of university students that didn't have their degree yet. So Cameron, I think that's such a great question you asked, because obviously, like we've just discovered, there's differences between what cruise lines will require for seasonal youth staff with regards to experience and both degrees. For example, just like Celebrity, I guess Royal Caribbean also does require a 4-year degree for their youth staff roles. Princess, P&O Australia, Cunard, Holland America, I believe, they do not. So it's a good question for a recruiter or someone like myself. So feel free to email me, info@getalifeatsea.com, if you have like more questions about that progression. But that is, I'm glad you asked that, because we just discovered some new questions, so that's really good. Because I knew RCL was a company that required degrees. I didn't know Celebrity was, but I guess that makes sense since RCL, Celebrity, and like NCL, they're like kind of all affiliated, I guess. So
Yep.
that makes sense. Okay, cool. So guys, we won't take up too much more of your time. We'll probably close out, but feel free to still comment, especially if you're watching the replay. We'll pop back in to answer questions. But I want to thank Alana so much for taking the time. I know, like, you're joining your next ship like tomorrow. Is that right?
I fly out tomorrow. I haven't even packed yet. I didn't pack anything. Empty suitcase right now.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm gonna make a and then for you for your next YouTube video that while you're packing, you do a video.
Ah, okay.
For us, like oh my gosh, this is what you packed the day before you're joining for 8 months. I don't know. It could be fun. It could be like a time lapse thing, or it could just be like, this is what my suitcase looks like. I don't know. I think everyone here would be super stoked. I've done packing scopes, but I think it would be so much more powerful from you actually like packing to actually join. So that's my suggestion.
Okay. I will do my best to make it happen. Just keynote for anyone watching this. Expect to see it maybe, because every time I pack, she gets really nervous, like hearing all the crinkling of everything. So expect to see my dog Katie in the video, because every time I pack, like, I think it breaks her heart and it breaks my heart a little bit more. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks so much, guys, for joining us. And if you want to follow more again of Alana's journeys, be sure to follow her blog and also subscribe to her YouTube channel. And we will be following her as well on the Get a Life at Sea platforms and posting like awesome pictures of her next adventure. And actually, ending note, like, where are you headed to next? Like, what's the next itinerary? You're joining tomorrow. What's the itinerary initially for your ship?
So I'll be joining in Southampton, England, and then we'll be sailing to different ports in Portugal and Spain. Mm-hmm. And then, after that, we do the crossing to Bermuda, into Miami. We stay in the Caribbean for about 5 months, and then we do the crossing again in April to Lisbon, Portugal, and then we do Norway, Iceland, back to Southampton, and then I'm home in May.
Wow. So 2 transatlantic crossings, Europe, the Caribbean, Iceland, just another day in the life of a crew member and the awesome stuff you get to do. So thanks so much, Alana. We'll be having Alana back on her next vacation, or even maybe while she's on board, if we can get good Wi-Fi. So we'll see how that goes.
As long as I can find a Wi-Fi spot, let's make it happen.
All right, cool. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye for now, guys.